operating leverage. Operating leverage refers to the relative amount of fixed costs. High fixed costs in our business means high operating leverage, which means that results, good and bad, get magnified. It might help to think that our total costs, fixed and variable, are going to be about the same no matter what we do, but higher fixed costs means higher operating leverage, which means magnified results. Low fixed costs means low operating leverage, which means less risk. All right, let's look at an example. Let's say we're making motorcycles, and this company has sales of $1 million, variable costs of 20% to give us our contribution margin. We're using the contribution margin form of our income statement. Sales minus variable costs gives us contribution margin, minus fixed costs gives us operating income. Operating leverage is defined as contribution margin divided by operating income. So in this case, it would be 800,000 divided by 200,000, or 4. The dollar signs in the numerator and the denominator cancel each other out, and we have operating leverage of 4. The competitor across the street has set up their business a little differently. They're hand making these, let's say, motorcycles. So their variable costs are 70% of sales. Low fixed costs. Operating leverage is defined as contribution margin over operating income, or in this case, 1.5. Let's watch what happens with the magnifying results of high operating leverage. Suppose each of these manufacturers has a 10% increase in sales. So sales go from $1 million to $1,100,000. We can construct these new income statements doing all the calculations, or we can use this cool shorthand system where we simply take operating leverage and multiply it times the increase in sales. So we could reconstruct a whole new income statement and see that operating income went from $200,000 to $280,000, which is a 40% increase. Or we could simply take 4 times the 10% increase in sales and quick and dirty know that our operating income is going to go up by 40%. Why don't you pause this video and see if you can quickly figure out what's going to happen to this low operating leverage company with that 10% increase in sales. I hope you got it. 1.5 operating leverage times the 10% increase in sales means that operating income goes up by 15%. So you see how the operating leverage magnified the results over here. Both companies had the same increase in sales, but this company's operating income went up by 40%, while this company's operating income went up by only 15%. Well, which is better, high operating leverage with high risk or low operating leverage with low risk? And it's going to depend on our business. At first place, we may not have a lot of flexibility in the sense that if we run a hotel, we can't really go to the county and say our property taxes are a fixed cost. We'd like to change that to a variable cost, please, and pay you $1 a guest instead of paying $100,000 a year in property taxes. So we don't have a lot of flexibility with regards to some costs, but some costs we can make choices. Let's look at an example where we're thinking about building a bicycle factory. And we can have a highly mechanized option where our bicycles are built by machines, $100,000 worth of depreciation every year, and $1 per bike. Maybe that's for the electricity. So we've got some fixed costs and a tiny bit of variable cost. Or we can make the bikes by hand with no fixed costs, and our labor costs are $101 per bike. So high leverage versus low leverage. A first step might be find the point of indifference. At what point is our cost the same under the high leverage option and the low leverage option? So here's our high leverage cost, $100,000 plus $1 times each bike that we make. When is that the same as $101 times each bike that we make? We'll subtract 1 times B from each side, so 101 bicycles minus 1 bicycle is 100 bicycles, so 100,000 equals 100 times B, or B equals 1,000. If we think we're going to make 1,000 bikes or more every month, we should opt for the high leverage option. If we're going to make less, we should choose the low leverage option. Let's look at a couple examples. Let's look at an example where we're under the target of 1,000 and an example where we're over the target of 1,000. So if we only make 500 bikes, our costs under the high leverage option are the $100,000 fixed plus $1 per bike, or $100,500. Under the low leverage option, it's going to be 101 times the 500 bikes, or 50,500. So if we're below this 1,000 bicycle mark, we should choose to build the low leverage factory with low fixed costs. On the other hand, if we are over that target, if we make 2,000 bikes, our costs have only gone up by $1,500 from the 500 bikes for the high leverage option, but they've quadrupled under the low leverage option. And so what's so bad about the high leverage option? Well, first of all, it will magnify results on the downside, and it's hard to cut fixed costs because they're generally committed costs. I like to say you can't lay off robots. All right, hope that helps.